Hello everyone and welcome to Galactic Civilizations 3 Newbie Tutorial. I am your host, Colors Fade. This video series is for players who are new to the game and are maybe overwhelmed by the complexity of the game and the lack of documentation, so you've come to the right place. Instead of using the tutorial here in the game, just watch my videos. You'll get everything you need. I assume that you have the Crusade and Intrigue DLCs installed. If you do not all of this information you see on screen will be applicable, but a lot of this information should still be useful. I also want to make a quick note about campaigns. They do exist in the base game. They're not particularly interesting. They take place on small maps and they're not particularly difficult to defeat. You should do them for the Steam achievements if you're an achievement chaser like me, but otherwise you want to press new game and play in the sandbox. So we're going to set up a new game. These are all the default factions that come with the game after you have all the various DLCs installed. The two at the bottom, the Raxus Empire and the Alpha Centauri, these are my custom races. You should definitely build a custom race after you become familiar with the gameplay and decide which abilities and traits are important to you. For now, because nobody has these custom races but me, I'm going to start off with the standard Terran Alliance. They're not particularly great, but they're good enough. This is your galaxy settings. You can create all kinds of different scenarios for yourself with this setup. One of the first things to understand in this first galaxy type tab is you will pick the size that you want, and it's really good down here. As you scroll over these, it'll tell you how many factions the map typically supports. Now you can put more on them or you can put less on them to make them less populated and make things potentially more spread out. I typically just put however many factions the map recognizes. We're going to play on a huge map for 12 players. In addition, you will notice that some maps down here are grayed out to me because I do not have enough physical memory to play these games. I'm playing on a laptop. And so you need to have a certain amount of RAM to play these. And the reason that Stardock did this is because there were people with slow machines like mine trying to play on these huge maps, and they get on the forums and they complain endlessly about the performance of the game. And so Stardock said, okay, if you can't be trusted to play on maps that your system can handle, then we're just going to disable them for you. So I have 8 gigabytes of RAM available. A huge galaxy, it recommends 16, but I've played it on 16. I can play up to gigantic, and it really doesn't lag my system. I'm sure the rest of these would, though, so I don't mind them having those grayed out. I will have a new machine soon, and I'll be able to play on the biggest maps. But I will say that the large, huge, and gigantic maps, these three in the middle, these are really good maps for you to play on as a beginner. I would recommend maybe the large map starting out with 8 factions or the huge and starting out with 12, so that's where we're going to start out with. And you have all kinds of different galaxy types: spiral, loose, tight cluster, scattered. I'm just going to put it on random and let it pick whatever it wants. Your galaxy settings determine things like star frequency, planet frequency, extreme planet frequency, all these different things. You can set these however you want to. I will make one note here, one or two notes. Black hole frequency. There are 5 resources in the game, and those are antimatter, durantium, Illyrium, promethium, and thulium. Antimatter is tied to the number of black holes in the galaxy. So if you set the black hole frequency to none, you will not get any antimatter in your universe. I put it to common, and sometimes I put it to abundant just to make sure I have those. Ascension crystals are one way you can win the game. I make them abundant because they make the game more interesting. And the other thing is anomaly frequencies. With the Intrigue DLC, it can be very hard to earn money for the first 80 to 100 turns of the game, and one of the best ways to earn money is with anomalies, so I recommend having this as common or abundant during your first few games. These are all the various victory conditions, the ways you can win the game: conquest, influence, research, ascension, alliance, or a term limit, which I've never had to deal with. You can turn any of these off or on as you want. I just leave them all on. Game settings. These are things that will, well, you see. Galaxy difficulty. As a beginner, I would set this to normal, and that'll set all the AIs to normal. You can still change them individually. Gifted is probably the way the game plays the best, but as a newcomer, it might be a little too challenging for you. And it's important for you to understand what all these different difficulties mean. The AI doesn't get any smarter or dumber by changing this. What this does is give the AI multipliers for things like production or research. So at high levels like incredible and godlike, they have really ridiculous multipliers, so they'll research things 5 times faster than you will. It makes it very hard to win the game that way. One thing you should do as a new player, you can disable these things, tech trading, which means that none of the factions will be able to trade technologies between each other. The only thing they'll be able to do is research their own stuff. I would not turn that off. You want to be able to trade some techs. It's how you're going to actually make some money early on. But for new players, disabling tech brokering is a good idea. You should select this. What it'll do is keep the AI from trading everything with each other. They'll only be able to trade the technologies that they discover. That slows down the amount of tech trading that goes on. The AI will trade most of their techs with all the other factions, and that allows them to get way out in front of you in terms of research. So I'm going to turn this on so that a new player can see what this looks like. A second thing you may want to turn off is disable AI surrendering. Your enemies will fight to the last death. In a typical game, if you are in a war with a faction and you are getting them down to the last few planets, they may just decide to hand over all their planets and starbases to another faction. It prevents you from wiping them out. It prevents you from gaining their assets as you wipe them out, and it makes somebody else stronger. So you may want to turn this off as well. Finally, we're going to be in opponents. I am going to select my 11 other opponents because I don't want to play against my custom faction. So we're going to choose the original enemies in the game: the Iridium, the Kryn, the Yor Singularity, the Iconian Refuge, the Thalans. We're also going to choose the Snathi, the Arcs, the Taurians. Let's see how many there is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I need one more, so I'm going to choose one of the synthetic races, the Slin. Now, there are a couple interesting things here. You saw on the earlier screen where we could adjust the AI for the game world. If I go over here and change this to gifted, you'll see that all of them have been changed to gifted. I can go back here and I can change them to normal, and they'll all be changed to normal. You can also individually change the AI level, the bonus multipliers for individual ones. This can make a really interesting universe if you go in here and make like a third of them gifted and a third of them genius and a third of them normal, or make some of them weak. You can also put them on teams. So if I put a 1 here in these columns, then the Drengen, the Altarians, and the Iridium would all start as allies together. That's another way to really make an interesting universe for yourself. Alright, so we have 12 factions including ourselves, and we're going to start. You can always randomize the opponents, but you may end up playing against some of your own custom factions. We don't want to, so we're going to start, and it'll create a map for us, and then we can get underway playing this game, and I can get underway showing you everything that's important about it. And while I'm sipping on my coffee here, I will take a minute to say this absolutely is my favorite 4X game ever. If you are a player of the Civilization series of games, you should have a lot of fun playing this. I was always a big Civ 2 fan. Put a lot of hours into Civilization 2 when it came out way back in the day. And since then, Civilization has always been a 4X game I've enjoyed playing. It's gone through a lot of iterations, and it's made a lot of major upgrades, and it's a blast to play, but playing it in space is more fun. Alright, so here we are in our galaxy. You start out on Earth. If you start out as a Terrans, you have one ship, Mars, various things floating around the galaxy. So let's get started. And the very top row of the screen is where all your assets are going to be. every resource that you mine, everything that you earn, legions that you create, it's all going to be up here with icons and numbers. You can see how much money you have, what your population is, how much food you have, how many administrators you have. You start out with 4, and your survey ship use one of them. Survey ships and colony ships each require an administrator. Administrators you can get through promoting new citizens, or there is a planetary improvement you can make that'll give them to you, but it's a choice you have to make during research, and if you don't take it, then you can't use that improvement. So administrators are important, and for the first 30 or 40 turns of the game, you're going to want to make citizens into administrators, because constructors are also the other ship that uses administrators, and you need constructors to capture and mine things like here, antimatter. Resources are king in this game. You need to get them as soon as possible. You need to mine them as soon as possible, and that means creating constructors. There are various tabs up here. You can always check your victory conditions and see where you are, and it'll tell you, for instance, if you're trying to chase the Ascension victory, it'll tell you what your current standing is, if you're 1 out of 12 or 8 out of 12. You can look at your civilization and see various things like colony, trade. You want to see how many available trade licenses you have. But the most important part of that screen is right here. You want to look at your money and your tax rate. We're going to leave it set at default 25% right now. Tourism is going to be the big earner in a little bit. And you can always look at your citizens. Right now we only have our leader. Every 10 turns you'll get a new citizen, and you can train them in specialties depending on what you have researched and unlocked. First thing I always like to do is pull back on the map and see where I am, and this is a really interesting map. We have a whole bunch of dead space, and we have a whole cluster of planets up here, and a whole cluster of planets over here, and then a cluster of planets down here, and we hope nobody else is down here. We'd like to be able to get all the habitable planets down here, but I bet you there's someone over here. So this gives you a kind of a plan for how to attack the map. You want to colonize as many planets as possible, as quickly as possible, because planets are power. They're a finite resource. Over here in the upper right, you can see what turn you're on, what your morale is. Morale is really important in the game, especially after the intrigue expansion. The happier you people are, the more bonuses your planets will get to manufacturing and research. When morale is negative, you will take severe hits to production and research. You can see your rank at any point in time compared to the other factions, and the balance of power. This graph will change over time as you discover the other factions in the world. The bottom screen has your mini-map. You can see graphs, power graphs, and you can also use rally points. We will use these a lot, and I'll show you how to do that. You can see the planets you have and the planets you haven't colonized, any of your ships, all your shipyards, which we don't have yet, and any of your starbases, which again we don't have yet. And then the bottom is going to show you everything about the currently selected planet. So the first couple turns in the game are critical. You want to start off, it's going to start off with your research, and the first thing you want to do is get artificial gravity and then interstellar travel, because these things are going to add moves to your ships, and they're going to give you access to some really important tech. There are 4 main tech trees: engineering, colonization, warfare, and culture. Culture is where you're going to find a lot of your governments that came with intrigue, and where you're going to find a lot of other things like tourism and economics. These things are going to be really important for earning money. We are going to want to get to interstellar tourism as soon as possible. You can see when I hover over this, it says 31 turns to research that at our current research level. As we build, our current research level is 7. We get 7 research per turn. As we build research improvements and citizens and things of that nature, and our planets grow, our research per turn is going to go up, and these will take fewer turns to get to. Each research node, you can hover over the little icons and it'll show you what you're going to earn by doing that. For instance, these little star icons, these are going to give you planetary improvements. And you can see what kind of planetary improvements are and what kind of bonuses they get. You can also look at things. These are diplomatic options that you can do when you meet other factions. unlocks a diplomat, influence, governments have the little crown. So those kinds of things, and anything that goes on a ship will be this little orange ship icon, a little blue starbase icon for improvements that'll help your starbases out. So there's all kinds of things. But for now, at the start of the game, artificial gravity first. Then this is going to be your turn button down here, but when you're not ready for the next turn, it'll tell you what you automatically need to do. So anytime there's an idle colony, you need to go to it and handle it. We have Earth and we haven't put down anything. Your very first turn, the first thing you want to do is get a shipyard up so you can make colony ships. You should spend some of your cash and rush buy this immediately. Once it's bought, you can only rush buy one thing each turn, but once it's bought, then you can start putting up the other things like the starport and the space elevator. So we're going to put those things up here and kind of create a big old manufacturing wheel over here, because in the center we can, later on when we research it, you can put a fusion power plant here. It's important to know that improvements give adjacency bonuses that help level up the buildings next to them. I have some foreknowledge, having played the game a lot, that there is a building called a fusion power plant that gives a +3 bonus to any other buildings that are next to it for manufacturing. So I want to put it in the center and build around it until I get there. In addition, each of these tiles will tell, if it has a little special icon on this, it'll tell you what it does. This says +3 to population or +1 to population. What this means is if you place a population improvement on this, it automatically gets leveled up +3, and any population improvements put adjacent to it will be leveled up +1 via the adjacency bonus. Up here we have silicates, which we can mine. That's why the arrow's up here. It means we can create a mine on this so we can improve it, and it gives a +2 level to research for any adjacency bonus. So we're going to want to put a research thing right here. We're going to want to save this for like a city later on. And arable land can also be improved, hence the arrow, and turned into a farm, which will give you food. You need 4 food to make a city, and food is a global resource, so each planet contributes to your kingdom's food. So the space elevator takes the least amount of time to build, and we're going to put it right here, and we're going to get a +1 from the capital, and then we're going to queue up the starport right next to it, right there. And that's all I'm going to build for right now. Well, I'm also going to think about putting the computer core up here, but I'm not going to do it yet because I know there's another science project I'd rather have right here if we can get to it. In your Govern Planet screen, if you don't want to micromanage your planets and individually place all of the improvements like I'm doing here, you can go into Govern Planet and you can say, do it for me. Instead of me directly controlling it, create a balanced governor, or create a manufacturing planet, or a research planet, or a wealth planet. I prefer to directly control all mine. You will do a better job than the AI will. One thing I always do when I get a new planet is I come in here and I say, do not upgrade the planet, do not upgrade improvements until the planet is full. And the reason why is later on you will create factories, and factories can be upgraded like 4 and 5 times, but the upgrades can be really expensive. The AI will automatically start upgrading this even though you have empty tiles where you would prefer to put new improvements, and you won't be told that this planet is idle, so you won't click the next button and come see it. It'll just be silently improving these factories that take a really long time to do it. So what you should do is go click that button, do not upgrade until planet is full. Then when all the tiles are filled in with improvements, then it'll start upgrading individual things. But these are the only 2 things we're going to do for right now. This is the stat that you want to keep an eye on for the planet, approval. What it does is it shows you the happiness smile, and I got to keep this here so that you can see the tooltip. The happiness smile 3.5 divided by 5. What that means is the approval on your planet will support 3.5 billion people, but you have 5 billion people on the planet, so your morale is only 70%. You're getting a small bonus to growth, raw production, and influence. If your morale goes negative, you will take negatives to growth, production, and influence. So you can improve your morale a number of different ways in the game. You can build improvements, but I recommend doing those last. There are other ways, and we will get to that. For now, we're going to be done with our planet. The next thing is our ship is idle. This is a survey ship. It can survey these anomalies over here, space junk and other things. In the early part of the game, this is how you're going to make money, is by surveying these things and also trying to discover habitable planets around these stars. So we're going to move our ship. It's going to come over here. He's got 4 moves. The Terrans suck at moves. But we have 2 thulium to mine here, and we have an antimatter over here to mine. Now here's big tip of the game number 1. When you uncover a star on the map, if you click on it, you will see how many habitable planets it has, how many asteroids, and how many resources around it. Asteroids can be mined to add production to the nearest planet. You assign it to a planet. So I could mine this for 100 credits, provide the production to Earth or Mars. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't want to spend those credits. And this over here is an Ascension crystal, which also has to be mined with a constructor. We don't have any constructors yet. We just have a shipyard. So, and there's no habitable planets around this red sun, Inger. So we're going to use our survey ship to not just survey these anomalies, but also try to go uncover these planets and see if there are habitable planets. To do that, we need to build some things. We need to build colony ships. You should rush build the first colony ship because these take population off your planets, and right now Earth has 5 billion people on it and a morale of 70%. So if we pull the people on it off of it, the planet will be happier, and it's already has a pretty good growth rate. It's going to grow those people back pretty quickly. Notice that I built 3 colony ships. I can't build any more or any constructors or any more survey ships because I'm out of administrators. Each one of these in the queue uses one of my administrators. The most important thing about sponsors is that you can sponsor with shipyards is that you can sponsor them with up to 5 planets. So each time you acquire a new planet by colonizing it or through war, you want to go to your shipyards and assign them over. I'll show you how we do that as we do it. At any rate, this is the end of turn number 1. We're going to press the turn button and continue. Our colonizer is going to spit out. We can put up to 3 million people on it or 1 million people on it. I'm just going to put 1 million people on it, and I'm going to start moving it toward this planet up here that I hope, this star system up here that I hope has a colonizable planet. In the meantime, we're going to survey our first anomaly. We're going to get 41 in our treasury, and our ship's going to get some experience points, which doesn't really mean much for this ship. I'm also going to creep forward. Now you can see I just uncovered that star. I'm going to click on it, and there are no habitable planets around it, but there are 5 asteroids. No big deal, but it's a little disappointing that this early in the game we don't have a habitable planet. Alright. This colonizer then, I'm going to send it out in this direction. I'm going to stop it on its 4th turn right there. And the survey ship is going to move forward. These capsules right here, these are really important. These little capsules that you can see like this floating around, these are a special anomaly, and what they will do is when you survey them, they have a small chance to advance your research by 15%. Later, now early in the game we only have one technology to really go after, but later in the game, as you have big research items, for instance, things like zero gravity construction, which give you medium hulls, takes 38 turns. Pushing something ahead 15% that has 38 turns is huge, so you want to go in here and change to some kind of research that takes a long time, and then swallow up this anomaly and then change back to whatever you were researching. In our case, we don't care right now because it's early, and there it is, 15% artificial gravity. And there's some text here about that you can read, but after a while you'll stop reading these. Alright, we're going to move forward one. This right here is an economic relic. These are really nice. You want to mine that as soon as possible. It's going to give you some boost to your economy. Alright. Our ship is still chugging away. We uncovered this solar system over here. It has no habitable planets, which is, again, just a real bummer for us. Oh, but look, we did find a planet over here. This is great. Okay, so there's a small planet over here. And I'm going to change the course on my colonizer ship. And we've completed our first research product. Artificial gravity. Now, you can go wherever you want to go after this, but I recommend doing interstellar travel for two reasons. First of all, it's going to give you a little more ship range. And second of all, it's going to give you access to the eyes of the universe, galaxy improvement. There can only be one per galaxy. So these are like the special achievements special improvements you can build in civilization where you can only have one of, like Leonardo's workshop kind of thing. We want that. I want that, so I'm going to try to get to it as fast as I can. In the meantime, this sun has just the one planet around it, and we're going to send our colony ship over to get it. And I'm going to serve this anomaly for 100 credits. And you can see we're losing money already. Well, right now we're losing 2 credits per turn, and that's pretty normal. These are random galaxy-wide events that happen early in the game that allow you to earn ideology points. Ideologies are important because they unlock some really cool things in the game, but you can't get them all, so you kind of have to choose, do I want to be benevolent, pragmatic, or malevolent? You can read the text here. A blight has affected Earth. Your administrators warn that there won't be enough food for all your citizens. The wealthy have already begun stockpiling food, and the desperate have begun raiding these stockpiles. If you choose the benevolent option, you get 5 points, minus 25% growth, minus 10% income on the affected planet for 10 turns. Pragmatic gives you basically the same thing, except instead of income, you take a morale hit. And malevolent will give you minus 1 population on the affected planet. I tend to play the game as a malevolent entity, but pragmatic is always the first choice that I want to make because you get 3 free constructors with a certain particular choice in there, and I'll show you that as we go along. So I'm going to choose the pragmatic one, and it's just going to add up points. We don't have enough points yet to do anything with ideology, so that was 5 points. It's basically nothing. It's not a concern. There's a couple of things up here that we can mine, but I want to see this star, and it has no habitable planets and 1 resource around it. I want to see if I can find out what the resource is. In the meantime, we're going to be able to colonize our first planet. So when you colonize your first planet, you get a really nice ideology bonus, plus 25%. I always choose pragmatic no matter what the rest of the text says, because pragmatic is always my first choice. You're free to take whatever you want playing this game. I'm going to go into government planet. I'm going to turn off the upgrading right away. And then before I create an improvement on that planet, we're going to do a couple of things. First of all, with intrigue installed, once you colonize a planet, you can go pick a government. Unless you start out as a race, a faction that has the bureaucrats racial trait enabled, or the ancient trait, the Altarians, I think it's either the Altarians or the Thalians qualify for this, to take this particular government. You're stuck with only 2 choices, imperial or colonial. They both have a colony limit of 4. In fact, the first 4 governments all have a colony limit of 4, which means that once you can colonize up to 4 planets without taking a morale hit. Once you start to colonize over the limit of 4, you start to take a severe morale hit for each planet over 4. And that means you need to upgrade your government or use commonwealths, which we will discuss later. For now, your choices are imperial government. You get a minus 1 diplomacy bonus, but a plus 20% for ship construction and a plus 1 moves. There are no elections, so you don't have to worry about a coalition government forming in case you fail an election. I personally don't think the minus 1 diplomacy bonus is worth it, because in the early game you want to keep the angry factions from going to war with you too soon. So I choose colonial. You get plus 10% social construction. That is just for building improvements on your planet. It doesn't count for ships. You also get plus 10 growth. It does hold elections, so you do have to deal with keeping your citizenry happy enough to win elections. But the other cool thing is you can send missions with your shipyards, which, if you're not building ships, if you manage to colonize a whole bunch of planets really quickly and get a second shipyard up, sending missions can be a good way to earn money. So we're going to choose the colonial government, and you can't change it for 26 turns. once it's chosen. Now, the very next thing to do is come over here to your shipyard now that you have a second planet, choose Edit Sponsors, and add that new planet to help sponsor the shipyard so it can kick out these colony ships faster. So we have our second planet, and now it's idle. It's not building anything. We have Monsantium deposit, which is a great trade resource. It has a +3 population adjacency bonus, so you probably want to put a city right here. It doesn't have a lot of tiles. The planet class is only 9. So here's something for you to be aware of. You will get terraforming tech, which, as you research further into the game, which will allow you to take these tiles that don't have anything on them and turn them into land that you can build improvements on. And this area over here is going to be really good for building improvements or around this area here. So I could build a nice manufacturing wheel over here after I have terraformed it, but the terraforming tech takes a while to get to. And down here we also have a really nice tile for research. So this is great. We want to put this gives a +3 level up if we put a research building on that tile. So we're going to want to do that. And in fact, the computer core on it will be great. You can only have 1 computer core per player, but we would like it on there, and we would like it to be leveled up. In addition, I'm going to put the space elevator over here, and that's going to add. So those are the first 2 improvements, and then I'm not going to do anything with the planet for right now. Other than that, it's going to take some time to build those things. Our +25 gives us enough. I chose pragmatic, and so I have 30 points to spend. The first thing I'm going to choose is constructive. Now, you need to just mouse over these and look at these and as you play the game and figure out which ones you personally think are awesome. This one down here, neutral. No one will declare on us for the next 50 turns. If you're going to go pragmatic, this is a good one to keep in your back pocket. You never have to spend these points as soon as you get them. You can hang on to them for as long as you want to. We could hang on to pragmatic, and if we thought someone was going to be hostile with us and we weren't prepared for war, we could pick this and buy ourselves 50 turns to prepare ships and transports and legions. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to choose this one. I think this is the single best choice for the beginning of the game, which is why I chose the +25 pragmatic option earlier. It gives you 3 free constructor vessels for mining. And I also have a second choice here, because I have 20 points to spend. I can reduce my shipyard decay by 50%. This is my second favorite one, but I'm going to hang on to my points for now, because we may want to use them for something else. Alright, I've got these constructors. I know I have 2 thulium here, which is great, and I have this economic relic, and I think I can get all of those guys with 1 constructor. You want to try and maximize your constructor and capture as many things as possible. In addition, we really want to inspect these other star systems, so I'm going to use these guys as kind of explorers for right now. And I don't know what's up here yet, so I'm going to start it out in that direction. I know from playing the game that in order to build Eyes of the Universe, it says right here, you can see construction cost is -75, but it takes 1 Promethean resource to build it. We don't have any Promethean because we're not mining yet, and we haven't found any. So we want to try to find it as soon as possible. So we're going to hope that it's up here, because when we clicked on this star, Vibjuma, it has 1 resource around it. You can see we don't know what the resource is. Our guy is going to have to move a little bit more to figure it out. We have another galaxy thing. Okay, this is the Galaxy News Network letting us know that a wave of patriotism spurned on by strong governmental approval is sweeping our worlds. We get +10% invasion resistance, which is nothing, no great shakes this early in the game. I'm going to put 1.5 million people on my next colony ship that just spit out, and I'm going to send it down in this direction. And if there's nothing at this star system, then it's going to move over to this next one. We are going to creep forward. Oh, and it's Durantium, which is around this planet. So, Durantium is nothing I care about at this point in time. I want to get this, but right now I'm more interested in Promethean, and I'm more interested in knowing about the rest of these planets here in this solar system. So I'm going to move my surveyor with this big sensor range in this direction, and I'm going to try to uncover what those planets are up to. This one right here, you can see, oh, we can't get the economic relic and both of these thuliums. That's a bummer. We can get one of the thuliums and the economic relic. So I'm probably just going to grab, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to move this ship down here because there may be more in this direction. But I want that eco relic, so I'm going to send him up here. This other guy. Actually, he's going to move down and this guy's going to move up. I have this ship is still a little idle. I have to figure out what I want to do. I know I'm going to want antimatter, so I'm going to circle this black hole over here and see if there's more. There's usually 2 or 3 antimatters around a single black hole, and you want to try to position your starbase around to collect most of them. Meanwhile, on Earth, we have finished these 2 buildings, and now we can build a central bank, which will improve our wealth, and we can build a farm. The central bank, yeah, having the wealth would be nice. I'm going to build it there. The farm isn't that big of a deal yet. Alright, he's creeping around the black hole, seeing what he can find. Oh, can't move him yet. It's this guy is the one who needs to move. Right. Keep moving him. This solar system down here has 2 asteroids, no resources, and no habitable planets, which means that our colony ship that was headed out in that direction can just keep going. So I'm going to turn around, and I'm just going to grab this thulium. Now, down here in the fog of war against the base of the map, this is where a lot of things like these economic relics and manufacturing relics and culture relics and morale relics will reside, along with, you can see this ascension crystals. So before I collect these 2 thuliums, I want to position myself to try and gather a lot of what I can't see here, because there may be something worthwhile. Alright, closing in, trying to figure out the rest of these universe. Oh, there's another black hole there. Wow. Alright. This economic relic I'm going to try to grab. And then when you build this starbase, I'm also, when you build a starbase, you get 3 choices. So I'm going to build this, and you can see how this works. You go to command, you click construct starbase. You construct your first starbase. Oh, and the Galaxy News Network's going to break in here for a second and let me know about planets with massive populations, which were not on the list. But you have a choice of choosing a culture ring, which will spread your influence, an economic ring, which you can only put around planets, and this adds all kinds of things like manufacturing and research and wealth, or a military ring, which you can then mount all kinds of weapons and things on. And then the Xenoarchaeology Lab, which is separate from these 3 rings. You can always have a Xenoarchaeology Lab with one of these 3 rings. There's a 4th ring that's not listed here. It's a mining ring, and it only shows up when you are inside the, when resources are inside your sphere. You'll see that when we do the thulium. So I want the economic relic. I want to mine that, which means I need the Xenoarchaeology Lab. And then I'm going to do an economic relic because I'm around my planet. And those things are gonna, this boosts my raw production right now by 2.5%. My influence growth is +1, and those are not big numbers. But later on, as our technology unlocks modules that we can install on here, we will do all kinds of cool stuff with this. So that's done. another galaxy-wide ideology event has popped up, and I am immediately going to start choosing Malevolent. I'm going to go down the Malevolent line, because there's a line in Malevolent that is really awesome. I have another colony ship, and it's going to be my last colony ship for a while because we don't have a lot of stars to populate, so I'm only going to put 1,000,000 people on it. And because we only have 3 remaining stars out here that could have habitable planets, and then we have this one way up here, so I'm going to send it way up here. This is going to put us in contact with other races, which is not necessarily a good thing, but these guys are going to scroll over here. So now you'll see what a mine looks like. I'm going to mine these 2 thulium and hopefully something that's also in this fog of war, but we'll find out. We're going to construct a starbase. Oh, and the Galactic Bazaar is there. So here's our mining ring. And for now, we don't have any other modules we can install, but what's going to happen is we'll start harvesting the thulium off of there. So that'll be nice. And we're done with interstellar travel. So orbital manufacturing in the engineering, this is how you're going to get larger hulls for larger ships, and you definitely want to go down this line soon. But I'm going to choose colonization because I want colonial settlements early, because I want a factory. And I also want to go down the culture line as soon as possible to get to interstellar tourism. We'll need the universal translator when we run across the very first faction that we can't speak to yet. So this guy is going to go down here. Alright. Oh, we ran into the Bazaar. So the Bazaar is a DLC that you may or may not have installed, and if you do have it installed, it will allow you to purchase ships that can do all kinds of really cool things. For instance, this is a survey ship that can run around. It has 11 moves, so it moves really fast, and it can gobble up all those anomalies, which will help you pay for things. There's some really cool ships in here, like this is a warship. It's really nice. Another survey ship. And these come in tiers based on what your research is. So you have access to the Bazaar up here, and this 3 will tell you how many ships you actually can purchase right now. When you're in the technology screen, you'll see down here at the bottom the Age of Expansion, the Age of War, and the Age of Ascension. The Age of Expansion is you're in this age until you research 12 technologies, and then you automatically move into the Age of War. You will be in the Age of War until you research something like 64 technologies or whatever. So the Bazaar is broken up into these ages. The first 3 rows are the Age of Expansion, and then this is locked because you haven't reached the Age of War yet. And then the last 3 rows are locked because you haven't reached the Age of Ascension. So the ships get progressively more powerful as you go along. This is a neat little survey ship, the Zengard. It earns 25 credits per anomaly that it surveyed, but it only has 5 moves. So you're almost better going off with the Prospector because it can move faster and survey more anomalies faster. We have also uncovered this called a Precursor Anomaly. You want to go to, I'm going to go to create rally point. I'm going to put a rally point next to it, and I'm just going to label it P for Precursor Anomaly. These are heavily defended and require a fleet to defeat, but they will give you great galaxy-wide bonuses. They will do things like plus 10% moves to all your ships, or plus 10% hit points to all your ships. They're really great, but they take fleets to handle. We ran into a Bazaar in this direction, which means there's probably a pretty good chance that there's another civilization here, I'm guessing. This planet down here has no habitable, this solar system has no habitable planets, so we're going to inch forward. Oh, and there's 2 Precursor anomalies together, so you can click on that and move it, and I'm just going to move it between those 2. And when I finally have a fleet, we'll come back there and get it. This guy's rummaging around here. I need to start collecting antimatter soon. Our shipyard is idle. We can't make any more constructors or colony ships because we don't have any administrators, but we can make these little bombers. And so I I could send out a treasure hunt, but it would take 18 turns to bring back anything. So I'd rather make these little bombers. And as they come out, we're going to use them to protect our shipyard. Alright, turn 10, we have our first citizen. And our thulium mines have kicked in. You can see down here what happens with that. We're mining the thulium and little arrows are coming up. And up here, up top, it says now. It shows you what you're doing. We're getting 0.1 thulium from each one of these nodes per turn, and we got 2 right off the bat. And we're getting 5% gross colony income from our economic relic that we're doing up here. So this is all good stuff. And a note here about Mars. I'm gonna make a note here, and different people do this different ways. You can colonize Mars right away, and I may actually want to do that because we're in such a remote part of the galaxy and there's no one near us. If these 2 suns over here end up not having habitable planets, we're going to want to turn one of these colonizers around and go colonize Mars. But normally what you want to do is, I don't ever colonize Mars. It's a small planet, barely habitable. Any of the barely habitable planets, you will not get an ideology bonus for colonizing them. Since it's inside your sphere of influence, if someone else tries to colonize Mars, in a couple of turns it'll flip over to your faction and you'll get it. So that's why I don't colonize it, but it's up to you. You can do things however you want to do it. Anyways, 10 turns into the game, turn 11, you get your first citizen. So I think the only 2 valid choices here are scientists to help speed up research, or an administrator so you can continue creating constructors and mining things. I'm going to choose an administrator, train my citizen. Some citizens can be promoted. An administrator can be promoted, but you need Epimetheus pollen, which you'll have to mine from a planet, and you'll need 10 Promethean to do it. When you do that, they give you a net gain of 4 administrators because it provides you with 5 more administrators, but then that administrator retires. So you get a net gain of +4. But since promotions are a ways off because it's tied to resources, we're not going to worry about it. What I am going to do now is, since I was making these bombers, I'm going to go in and make constructors instead. And I'm going to push those constructors up to the top of the list so that they spit out, and we can go over here and start collecting some of this antimatter and durantium and probably Illyrium. Whenever you see gas cloud fields and things like that, those are places where Illyrium likes to hang out. Alright, we have this survey ship. Survey says this is Tom Song star system, and it has no habitable planets, which means that we're down to the last star in our little cluster down here. And since I have let's see, how many colony ships do we have? We have the 2. We have one headed out in this direction. And if there's no habitable planets around here, we're going to have to go back and colonize Mars instead. And this guy still continuing to... Okay, so a dust cloud, your defense systems take a hit, but I don't really care about that. I need to be able to see more of this fog of war here. Uh-oh. This guy accidentally turned around and I didn't mean for him to. I meant for him to go up here, so I just wasted a turn doing that. Here's our one good survey ship. Oh, and look, there is a habitable planet down here, and it's a ghost world. It adds +10 to research. So that's the kind of planet we're going to want to turn into a research haven. We're really going to want to focus on research there. I'm going to have him go examine around here. I just want to see if there's anything else around here. There's not. I'm a little disappointed. Alright, I'm going to have this ship go up in this direction to try to clear this fog of war, because if there's some antimatter right here, I would prefer that this this constructor grab 2 antimatters instead of an antimatter and an ascension crystal, which I don't really care about right now. We're going to get plus 10 approval for 10 turns because it's founding day. Oh no, I went into the asteroid and I didn't mean to. Asteroids slow you down. So I just lost something there. Alright, this solar system down here has 2 habitable planets. It has one which is a class 8 and another one which is a class 8. And the first one requires atmospheric cleansing, which is a technology we do not have right now. So we're not going to worry about that. But I will show you a trick. You have to worry about planets that require atmospheric cleansing because some of the other factions can get that tech before you and then they can come colonize that planet. But if it's in a solar system where you've already had a planet colonized for a long time and your sphere of influence grows, then you should take that planet over with your influence and grab it. But you can also help that along with a constructor creating influence. So I'm going to just fly around here with this guy before it does anything else. I'm going to call an end to this episode real soon. I don't like these to be over a half an hour long, and this is already considerably longer, but I'm hoping you're seeing how the beginning of this game works. Alright, I'm going to move him over here so he can grab this one antimatter and this ascension crystal. And we haven't found any Promethean yet, which really stinks. I need space laboratories. This is how you get your first, let's see, I get a factory, a city, a research mission, a Helios research mission, and an armor spy scavengers. Space elevator, starport, central bank, computer core. We don't get our first research facility until here, the Xeno Research Laboratory, and it's going to take 10 turns, but I need it because I'm going to have some planets that are going to be doing some research. So, we still don't have Promethean. We can't get the eyes of the universe, which really stinks, but that's where we're at. See right here, we've researched it, but we don't have Promethean. We can't make it. I really want to put it right here in this tile next to the silicates, but we can't do it. So the next improvement I'm going to put on here is a farm. It's going to take 9 turns. It's going to give me some food. I'm still going to need 4 food before I can make a city. And this guy he's doing a little investigation for me on his way up. And same thing with this guy. He's going to go up here and capture this Durantium. So here we are. You can see I've got the antimatter and the ascension crystal inside, and I'm going to create a starbase. So the Xenoarchaeology Lab gets you the ascension crystal, and the mining ring will get you the antimatter. And that's that starbase. And our colony ship has made it all the way over here. So here's Kanahui. 1 requires atmospheric cleansing because it's a bacterial world. If we were a synthetic race, we could colonize this. But we're humans, and bacteria hurts us, so we can't. But we can get this one next to it. Kanahui 2, it's a ghost world, plus 10% research. So we're going to want to put research on it. Our antimatter mine is up. We're going to colonize this planet. We're going to get our second ideology. And I'm going to choose Malevolent because I want the Malevolent points. It's going to give me a free colony ship in addition, which I don't really care about now because there aren't a lot of planets left to colonize. Same thing here. I'm going to choose Malevolent again. We're going to get plus 20 food production. And the reason is because I want to go down the Malevolent line. So here is a really great tile. Placing a research facility on this tile automatically levels up plus 2. You should get plus 1 from the colony capital, so that you can see it makes it a plus 3. I'm going to put the hyperspace project right there. It adds plus 3. It adds to moves, and it requires antimatter, which we have. So it's going to take 40 turns to make, though. We're probably not going to be able to create it before someone else does. And rushing it would cost 3,000 credits, which we don't have. But that's what I'm going to start out with. And I'm also going to go over here and do what we normally do. Govern the planet, turn off upgrading. Go over to our shipyard. Oh, Unanchoring and anchoring. I'll explain that in a second. Edit sponsors. We want to add that to our sponsor. You can always unanchor a shipyard and move it around if you don't like where its default position is after it gets created by your planet. It takes 1 turn per tile to move, so if you want to move it 4 tiles, it takes 4 turns. That's 4 turns that it's not spending actually building something, but sometimes they get put in bad spots and that helps you move them. We got our first malevolent ideology point, and all these lines are interesting, but motivation is the best line because it gives all kinds of boost to production. The second one gives you plus 10 to all construction. The third one gives you plus 10 to all ship construction. Then you get the death furnaces, which is a unique improvement that has an adjacency bonus of plus 3 to research and plus 3 to manufacturing. It's awesome, and it earns a malevolent ideology point every 5 turns. And then the last one is plus 20% raw production. And the important thing is the very first one here unlocks the Intimidation Center, which you can put 1 on every planet. It earns an ideology point every 10 turns, and it significantly helps with morale. So I'm going to unlock that. I'm going to go down to Earth, and I'm going to put the Intimidation Center right over here, and it'll start building after the farm is up. So that's going to help a ton. Alright, for now, this is the end of episode 1. I hope you have learned a whole bunch to get you started on your path to victory. But this is just the very beginning. We're only on turn 16, and there's a whole lot left to do. So please come back on episode 2, and we will continue playing the game, and I'll continue showing you all the cool things about Galactic Civilizations 3. Thank you for watching.